Hey everyone, back again. This is a little follow-up of changes that I've made on the shed. Tool arrangements, shelving, so on and so forth. Also, last week I posted a video on making a vase out of that oak log that was loaded with splits, and it's like, oh, what can you do out of this? And I made a vase, and it came out pretty well. But the log that I actually showed at the introduction of what I was going to be turning was really bad. A lot of bad splits, a lot of holes from bugs, insects, and so on and so forth. But I didn't turn that one. I decided, okay, I'm going to put that on my bandsaw and see what I can get out of it. Boards, blanks, whatever, and see what am I looking at. And surprise, surprise, surprise. Well, after selecting which areas I wanted to get, this is what I came up with. Look at the beautiful spalting on that wood that just seemed like a complete waste. Complete waste. It's like, you can't do anything out of this. But this is an example, another example of what you can do with wood that might seem just like it's firewood and nothing else. So this will make some nice tool handles. I mean, I got still a split over here at the end, but it goes in about 4 inches, and it still gives me more than enough length for what I need for a tool handle. And amazing spalting on some of it. Actually, from that log I got quite a few blanks. Some short pieces, some long, some at least 2x2, but got some, like I said, short blanks, but the spalting is kind of consistent throughout. So, stuff like this. I'll make tops, or I'll make handles, I'll make whatever. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I have to concentrate on what projects I want to work on. I know that I want to make another wing box and film that. I still know that I have seen Stephen Oley, and I've seen Bob Hamilton build a 3 wing box, and I haven't gotten the blank that's square, like a 5x5, 6x6, something like that, to come up with a nice cube and put it in my lathe. But that has to be one of the things that I am going to be doing on a very near future. Don't know how it's going to come out. It's going to be something very different from anything that I've done. But yeah, it will be one of the upcoming videos for sure. It doesn't matter what I turn. Somebody else has already done it. If they didn't, then if that ever happens, I think that I will know. But either way, there's so many great wood turners out there, and I've learned so much. I mean, I've been turning for about close to a year now. Been a woodworker all my life, and I used to build cabinets and general construction. But I loved detail work. I loved fine cabinetry and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, a lot of pieces in my house throughout my desk, the entertainment center, the shelving. It's all pieces that I made. Nothing per se extravagant, but yeah, nice pieces. And if you go to a woodworker's homes, you're always going to find pieces that they built themselves, and I'm proud of it. And I have a few jobs out there that I'm proud of what I did. So anyway, as a woodworker, it's a completely different appeal. I mean, I still love working with wood, and I enjoy this a great deal. But it's a very different trade from being a woodworker per se. For instance, my tools. I mean, a woodworker. I had my own company, had employees, and I have lots of tools, and never did I have a drill press, a lathe, or a bandsaw. Those were all tools that were not required for my activities of my work that I did in the past. It was table saw, radial arm saw, sanders, different type of sanders and stuff of that sort, hammers, power nailers, you name it. That was the extent of my tools. And once I picked up a lathe, all of a sudden I'm finding myself needing, it's like, oh, a bandsaw would be really nice addition to the lathe so I can get things halfway through. Not saying it's 100% necessary, but it helps quite a bit. I mean, you can take a chainsaw and knock off the corners, and you can get by with that. And then, I'm seeing myself and coming across a drill press. It's like, oh my God, I need a drill press. These are the 3 tools that I've picked up just for being a wood turner rather than a carpenter. So I picked up an old drill press, I picked up my lathe, which I really like, and I picked up a bandsaw. I am limited to how tight or how small of a hole I can put on my hollow vessels, because I only have one tool that I've made up to get into my hollowing. And as you can see, okay, it allows me to go all the way to this edge. I still don't know exactly the best way to sharpen these up. Basically what I'm doing is I'm freehanding it around my stone, and can't use my jig. I wish somebody would show me the proper way of doing this one, sharpening these up. I might be doing the right stuff. It might be only freehand, or setting on a plate next to your wheel, and you just make that rotation for it. But anyway, if there's an easy way on this, let me know. But back to how deep I can go. If I got a vessel, for instance, like this one, I need to be wide enough to be able to keep coming up around the outside of this. And it gets to a certain point, if it's a much larger vessel, where I might not be able to swing my tool without hitting the outside edge of it. And I know that that's the case because I already tried on a different one. So it's a lengthy process for me, and I'll probably be making a couple of these. Now this one, I didn't make the whole tool. It was a Harbor Freight kit that I bought when I first got into wood turning. It was $79, $80 for the set. I know one tool costs you more than that if you get a quality tool, but it's for what it is. It did its purpose. So what I did with this one, seeing that I had something that I liked a lot better than this one, it cuts a lot better, which is only a Craftsman, but it's kind of a flat blade rather than a round blade like this one. It was a small bowl gouge on here. So what I did is I heated it up, put it into my vise. I created this bend, then heated up this area, again put it into the vise, and reverse that, and I made this shape. I know from other people that your goal is to keep these two in the same parallel, same line. So I tried to do that, as close as I could. So I think it's pretty good. So on a straight edge, I'm a little bit under, but you know, not bad. Better under than over, because if you're over, your tool will have more of a tendency to try to roll on you. So being behind the this center point is probably a little bit better, not as aggressive on your wrist, and you're turning as you're going in there. You know, you're not getting as much jerking on it. So anyway, this is one. Yeah, you know, while I'm at this, talking about custom made, let me continue. First attempt. Early on when I got the lathe, I had a cold steel chisel. It was to cut concrete. You know, I would bang it up, and I decided, okay, I'm not doing a lot of concrete work, but I sure I'm doing a lot on my lathe. So you can see that it has the octagon shaping, and well, I reground it kind of flat on the top and did about a 30-degree bevel on the bottom, and it gives me a nice tool with a good length when I have to reach a little bit deeper than where my tool rest can go. And I rely on this quite a bit. It cuts well, it holds an edge pretty well, so I'm not disappointed at this. But again, you know, I just turn a handle. I didn't even put one of those brass pieces on it. I just turned it, drilled it, and shoved the piece in there, tapped it on the end, and you know, it's on there. Did that one tool. Another one, I had a 1/2-inch drill bit. I wish I had it, but it broke on me. The end of it had broken. It was fairly brittle, but anyway, couldn't use it as a drill bit. I wanted to put it on a handle so I could use it for freehanding holes into the end of stuff of this sort. But since that it broke, again, I took it and I ground it. This is the cutting edge on the top, so it's again a flat cut, and again about another 30-degree angle in this area over here, slightly rounded. Again, a nice tool with a good rigid body on it, not made for the long deep reach, but again, it makes it a nice scraper that you can do. Very inexpensive. I mean, after all, you know, if you're going to buy a drill bit to do that, I don't recommend it because drill bits are not cheap. But in my case, it was broken, so it was the best thing that I could possibly do under the circumstances. Another one that I did, nothing great on this. Let me see if I got it. Yeah. Okay, this is not for strength or anything of that sort. It's just a plastic grommet on here, pine handle, but it's a Sawzall blade. It's in there, and I use it for not for parting tool, which you could make it. You could resharpen this and actually create a second, you know, another parting tool. But when I need to separate the end from a base or something like that, I go in there and cut it. I can do a freehand, or I can have the lathe turning and go in there and just use the power of the lathe and cut through a piece. Don't use it much, but it's there. Let me show you something. A while back, I picked up some of these 3-inch disc like this for my sanding, and on each one I wrote the grit of what I was using, but being unexperienced at first and abusing it a little bit, well, you know, this rubber got a little bit chewed up in some of them, some of them the Velcro has stopped having a grip, and you know, I hate to replace them. They're like $7 a piece, or $8 a piece. I forgot exactly, but anyway, what I did with the ones that had been chewed up and were no longer really to standards, on the drill press I separated that white rubber that was over there, and I picked up, let me show you, a package of super sliders. They're furniture pieces that you would put on the floor with this felt down, so you could move furniture and not scratch the flooring. These are pretty firm foam top with the Velcro on the bottom. Well, after cleaning up the white foam that was on here, I put some super glue on the felt side and placed it exactly centered on my disc and was able to replace it. Now it's slightly undersized from the ones that I had originally bought. Slightly, but it doesn't matter because, you know, it gives you just a little cushion. Pop it in the drill and I'm going with that. It's still good. Put it back, grab the next grit, pop it in and go through that grit, and so on and so forth. Some grits I go through a lot more than others. So I mean, for a couple of dollars, I hate changing subjects too much, but let me show you what I got on the bandsaw. And let me talk about what you can do as far as upgrading your bandsaw. It's a Delta, 14-inch. It came without the riser block. Well, again, not endorsing Grizzly, but I was looking for a riser block all over the place, and everything I was coming up with was, if it had the word Delta on it, it's $200 and some, and if it didn't have the word Delta, it's $140, $160. So the prices on all the riser blocks were like unbelievable. It's like, that's more than I paid for the saw. I paid $120 for this bandsaw. I mean, I know it was a great deal. Then again, you know, I look for deals. And, you know, to pay that for just a block of steel, you know, I didn't think that was justified. But anyway, looking around, I came across Grizzly had this particular model, and I don't know for what band kit. And, you know, as a matter of fact, this is the bar that it came with to go in here for the blade guide. Well, I think it's like 3/4. My housing for the Delta is 15/16 out there, and I have a few pieces of this, and it's just under the 15/16 on the outside diameter that I needed. So I just put it in here. It's oversized, but it doesn't matter. Loosen it up, bring it up to whatever height I got. When I'm tightening it up, I make sure that the blade is neutral, so it's not putting any tension to the sides. And I got a bandsaw capable of doing almost 12-inch strips, or resawing. So, you know, great tool. Continue. I know that I gave a tour of my shop not too long ago as I was going through it, and while we're in here, of course, you know, I did the cubbies for my tools, and that's done. And I mentioned some other possibilities, some other stuff that I was going to be most likely doing, which I have. And, well, you know, I put up some shelving going across on my table saw. On the back of the table saw, I actually added a little extension wing to it. which allows the table saw, once it's up there, to be up against the wall, because the motor sticks out on the back, so there would always be that void anyway back there. So I made an extension, like I said, and I can keep it over there all the time. You know, things aren't falling behind it, and I can use my cross-cut sled for my when I start making segments again, all day long at the saw where it is. So anyway, so I got to that. You know, the shelves over there, that made a nice difference. Put a lot of tools in place where they needed to be. Things aren't going all over the place. I got a little bit of wood supply up above there, mostly maple. Picked up a few pieces of maple. Following up with my bench, I reorganized a little bit back there. Drill press. It's a Rockwell Delta. It's got a 4-step pulley on it. It works pretty nice. The position that it's in, I think it's ideal. It's not overwhelming, not taking room in front of my entrance to my shed. So I can still bring my lawnmower in here. And you know, the whole workspace just has a much better flow. Which was that odd-shaped platter. I guess was a pretty good hit. A lot of you have joined my channel. I want to thank you. It's been my first video that I put up that's gotten so far over 700 hits. Thank you, every one of you that have watched it.